We are in the middle of this series, When Communication is Hard, to discuss a topic that is just as important and impacts our kids. That is, the strength of the parent relationship itself. Today's conversation with JanTalen shifts the focus to how, when parents grow in connection and calm, it creates a foundation that helps even the most challenging behaviors begin to settle. What if the key to calmer kids isn't found in another parenting technique, but in strengthening your relationship as a couple? In this conversation, JanTalen and I explore how parents can decide what's both nice and necessary in the middle of stress, so connection isn't lost when tension rises. We talk about why the parent relationship needs to come first, and how when it does, children actually feel more secure and settled because they are growing from that foundation. You'll hear simple ways to walk yourself through overwhelming moments, allowing your calm and logic to hold your emotions so you can respond with clarity instead of reacting in frustration. And through it all, we come back to gratitude, growth, and celebration. Because when you begin to shift, even in small ways, your child often follows. And together, you create a home where connection and progress happen side by side. Does your child have a speech-language delay and you really want them to talk? Do difficult behaviors derail home life and you know the frustration is a communication struggle? Does your child see a speech therapist and you wonder, what do they do and how can I help? If these or similar questions are in your mind, this podcast is for you. Hello, my name is Dina Lynn Rosenbusch. I am a speech-language pathologist that has worked with children from birth to 21 for 3 decades. And in my classrooms, I see you wanting to connect with the heart of your child, but their speech and language skills create a barrier. So if you have a kiddo that has difficult behaviors, needs to expand their language or learn to say speech sounds, and maybe even receives speech therapy, stay tuned, because in this podcast, you will learn how to use your daily life as a tool to communication practice, and how to do that practice. You will become confident knowing you are making the difference you want to make. And you will hear success stories of parents who have navigated these struggles already. We'll do this all while focusing on building deep, meaningful connection and confidence in your kiddo. So grab a cup of coffee along with a notebook and pen. It's time to speak in the way your child's brain understands. And that is the language of play. Welcome back to the language of play. We are right in the middle of our series, When Communication is Hard. And we're pausing for 2 episodes that come alongside and strengthen Part 5. Research shows that parents of children with autism experience higher rates of divorce than families without disabilities, which highlights the added pressure many families are carrying. So in episode 259, we focused on identifying and supporting kids who struggle with processing language, including challenges as seen in autism and ADHD. And then in the last episode, 260, we talked to a mom and parent coach sharing real-life insights into raising strong-willed, highly sensitive, neurodiverse kids. And now in episode 261, we turn our attention to the family foundation, the marriage, because strengthening that relationship can bring the calm and connection that both parents and children need. It is my hope that these 2 inserted episodes are as supportive and encouraging as I intended them to be. But even if your child isn't struggling with processing challenges, today's episode stands on its own, because the strength of the relationship between parents is a powerful foundation for every child in every home. Now, before we actually get started in that, I want to tell you some exciting news that is happening this month. I have been nominated for 2 international podcasting awards, or maybe I should say the Language of Play has. So, eek, that's just so exciting. The first one is called the Voice of Authority Award, and the second one is Women Podcasters Awards. The Voice of Authority Award is committee voted, but the Women Podcasters Award are voter driven. So I am asking you to vote for me. So go down to the show notes and thank you for following that link to vote for me. Now, I must say that form is kind of a lot on the eyes. So I'm going to give you an overview of how it works. Parenting is listed in lifestyle podcasts. So the Language of Play is found under that category called lifestyle podcasts. So here's how it works. You click on the link in the show notes, you click on the word vote, and it brings you to a voting site. And then you click vote again, and it brings you to the Google form. You fill in 3 fields, your email, your name, and your country, because this is an international award. And then zoom, you scroll all the way down right after country to lifestyle podcasts. And then you choose lifestyle podcast and you scroll down to the Language of Play. After that, you can skip past a whole bunch and scroll all the way to the bottom where you will push yes, you understand, and then you have to answer a math problem to prove you are not a robot. And then you submit, and that's it. But of course, if you want to look at other people's podcasts and vote for them too, by all means enjoy the process. So thank you for doing that for us. Do you have a business or a company that would like to sponsor the Language of Play? I would be happy to talk with you. Whether that be a local promotion or globally on this podcast, let's talk about how we can support children and families together. You can email me at hello@thelanguageofplay.com. And then, recently I finally launched that website, thelanguageofplay.com. And thank you to all of you that have written me to say what you thought and what your impressions were. It's so fun to hear from you. As I work with it, I'm finding more and more things that I want to be a little bit different, but I guess that's how we do things, isn't it? We live and we learn. All right, let's get started now on this pre-recorded episode with JanTalen. Using her marriage and family knowledge and skills, she developed the pathway for new parents to stay together while parenting their kiddos and keeping their marriage relationship strong. You can move from family crazy to family calm with the DNA way to communicate. And her full bio is in the show notes, and guess you're going to want to read that. So welcome, Jan. I'm so glad to have you here on the Language of Play. We had a funny conversation not too long ago as we just started talking about life and the struggles when I first met you. So before we actually get started with this interview, would you let the listeners know a little bit about who you are and how you got into this role?
Well, thank you for having me. I am excited to be able to talk with you and talk with your audience and hopefully encourage families in whatever direction they need to take, that they will get a little bit of what's my next step, or this is a solution to at least part of my struggle. So I got into this work because I was married with children. I was also trained while I was having children and getting my license. I had 4 kids. So I had 4 kids before I was 30. And my husband and I were both busy working and building careers. We lived in California. There was no internet, so I'll date myself just a little bit. What that meant is phone calls were not free, sending pictures were not free. Flying was a reasonably new thing and expensive, especially when you added children to the cost of flying. So we were going solo in many ways because we didn't have family and we were working on friends, but often career superseded friends. So we were in a bit of a marriage ditch. I said we have to do something. And so we took a short trip to the Bahamas without the children. Here was the plan. Now, not everybody likes this plan, but it worked for us, and that's why I speak of it. We were fighting, and we aren't loud fighters. We were discussing from 10 at night until 3 in the morning. Non-productive, to say the least, right? So we flipped it over and we went to the Bahamas, and we said, we are going to talk about what's going on, and we made lists. What do we need to change here? What needs to transition?
Hmm.
You look scared. It was
No, I
okay.
think that's a fantastic. Just address it directly. That's really smart.
So we shared our list, so we weren't slammed, but we didn't talk about them until we got there. And we planned the mornings to talk about what was on the list and talk about possible solutions. Then we went out and we played. I mean, we like boats, we like water, we like sun, we like surf, we like hiking. So we went out and we played. And that all of that talk could just sort of mull around. We'd go out for a reasonably nice dinner, or we'd make something at the VRBO, and um, and we would just have some sort of personal adult space in whatever that looked like. We would bring the topic back up. We might do something else. So we did that for a week. But what we figured out was that we were busy deciding where we wanted this marriage to go and what we wanted our family to look like in the end. What values were we driving to? And we had to be on the same page.
Mm.
And then we had to talk about, well, how are we going to get there? And so that was talking about the three C's. How are we going to connect with our kids and with each other? How are we going to communicate, speak, and
Mhm.
listen to them? Because every kiddo was different. Could you imagine that? You know? And then we had to talk about, yeah, but when you talk to her, and my husband's tall, when you talk to her in a stern voice and you're 3, 4 feet taller than her, maybe taller than that. She is scared silly. She can't hear words you're saying. So
Mhm.
how are we going to apply what we're talking about in a way that fits with the kiddos
Yeah.
and with each other? That created the DNA. We're deciding, discerning what we want. We're using skills that are nice. They're good communication skills. They're necessary skills. And we're applying those skills to the situation and to the kiddos and to each other in a way that works in that situation. That changed our family DNA.
I bet it would. That's really proactive. I have to ask you a question. You
Yeah.
said three C's and you said connect, communicate, and I didn't catch the third one.
Oh, because I didn't say
Oh,
it. That's why. The third one is how to do conflict and confusion resolution.
ah, okay. Tell me about that.
Um, well, you have to, first of all, be connected, and you've used your communication. So your listening and your speaking skills rather nicely. And then to resolve conflict or confusion, you have to stay in a place where you honor and respect each other.
Mm,
You have to wonder, what don't I know? The fancy words for this are giving benefit of the doubt.
mm.
Wonder what you don't know.
So,
Find
like, be
out what you don't know.
curious.
Yes, because if you start answering the questions you don't know, your answers are going to be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Ask the questions. Be vulnerable enough to answer as best you can. Sometimes you're like, ah, I don't know, I just did it. I don't know why I did it. I can't
Yeah.
psychobabble all of that right now. Just that's what happened. But that gives us more grace and
Mm-hmm.
more room to not be mad. And then from there, the John Gottman approach of we have to learn how to stay turning towards each other, emotionally
Mm-hmm.
connected, even when we're under tension. The bottom line to that
Yeah.
is saying that my relationship with you, as my kiddo, you as my spouse, is more important than who of us is right or wrong. And putting that first. So one of the things my husband said to me, this was when we were very early married, he was going to law school. There was um, uh, because there wasn't internet, you had to go house shopping or rental shopping on the bulletin board.
Mm-hmm.
And a janitor walked by and looked at us, and we had been married 3 months. And he said, "You all married?" And we're like, "Yeah, we're all married. I'm happy." And he walked by and said, "You won't be when you're done."
Oh, how awful.
Yes, except for we think that guy was an angel because we dug our heels in and
Huh.
said, "We will be married." And my husband had an alternative plan. If he didn't pass law school, didn't make it in law school, he was going to become a goat farmer. I was not interested in being a goat farmer's wife. Nowadays, I would have been, but 40 years ago, nobody was doing goat farming. Nowadays, they're making bank on it, but they weren't. And so, um, we stuck together, but it made us focus on, well, we are going to care about this relationship. And my husband's value of, if our marriage is going to heck because we can't make it through law school, I'm dropping law school and I'm going to do something else.
That's pretty
And,
cool.
and those are value sentences that gave both of us hope in different spaces.
Mhm.
And it made us be willing to say, I will sacrifice something for the sake of my relationship with you.
Yeah, that's nice. That's
Mhm.
really good.
So that is where this comes from. I became a marriage and family therapist because I loved marriages. I loved the dynamics. I love the
Mhm.
thought of how the system works together.
You know,
And
when people hear that, I think so many of the listeners are thinking, that's not me. That's not how my life was. I
mhm,
can't imagine my spouse
mhm,
responding like that.
mhm,
What would you
mhm.
say to that person that is thinking, that's beautiful that it happened to you. I'm glad that happened to you, but I
Yeah.
cannot see it.
Mhm.
Or I'm divorced, I'm single. I definitely am not seeing it anymore.
Yep, yep. And certainly, I was in private practice for 38 years, so I have heard and seen and felt the pain and the fear, and the dismay, the hopes dashed. Those are real. I agree with that. Those are real spaces for people. What I also know is that when we own our own selves, and that's part of what we had to do before we went to the Bahamas, we had to own our own stuff. Okay. I was
Hmm.
avoiding, I was so entrenched in parenting and trying to keep a household afloat, um,
Mm,
that I wasn't giving him any energy. I didn't have any.
right. And I think
Mhm.
that's what's happening a lot, especially when you've got kiddos, if they have some disabilities or delays. You
Absolutely. Yes.
even sink your heels in farther and you say, we got to do everything we can for the child.
Yes.
What do you have
Yes.
to say to the family that is truly doing the best that they can for those kiddos and their focus is on the kiddos?
Mhm.
But yeah, you have to focus on each other too, and there's only so much of you to go around.
Yeah, I didn't bring it with me today, because I had to come to my daughter's house, so I'm in a different space. Eh, We will say, our marriage studies will say this over and over and over. It's a long-term study. You have to wear your marriage hat first. So I have a really cute black hat I wear when I want to go on a hot date. I don't want to go on a planning date. I want to go on a hot date. I want to pretend like I'm 18 and I'm on a hot date. Okay. My cute hat. Okay. It's got a little flirt to it. That hat has to be on husband and wife together first. It's what you have to first think about. And you have to work together. We want you both on the same path, going together on the same path.
Hmm.
Then we want you both to put on your parenting hat. And for me, that's a baseball hat. Okay. It goes on top of my marriage hat. And what we want is husband and wife to go together down the road, down the marriage road and the parenting road. Not one of you picking parenting and one of you picking marriage. You will go parallel and you will diverge. You're
Mm,
not on the same path. You have to do marriage and parenting together this way, one path
yeah.
together. And that creates a need for, um, I want to call it compromise. Usually when I'm working with somebody in a therapy session, we're not working towards compromise. We're looking for what's the best for us
Mm,
and finding the best. And because as soon as one person compromises, their brain reads it as a loss.
sure.
And so now we're in a win-lose situation in our marriage.
Ah,
You see that?
hmm.
Okay. Well, I gave up
So
bike
almost
riding.
like co-creation.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. um, so that you are really doing the things you both bought into. This is the solution. This is what we're going to do. And it doesn't mean that you don't try it 3 times and then adjust. Okay.
Mhm.
We tried 3 times with me doing bath and teeth brushing and my husband doing PJs in bed. However, he's much better at teeth brushing. He will get them to giggle and brush their teeth. They were little, right?
Mhm.
I wasn't. I was just mad. So So we flipped. And as soon as we did that, bedtime smoothed out. Now, it wasn't smooth. We had four kids and they're bumbling all over the place, but it smoothed out. But you have to try it and then adjust it and try it and adjust it.
Mm. So I suppose that's very true to even just parenting.
Yes.
Is you try it and you adjust and you try it and you adjust. Now you have the website Us and Kids.
Yeah.
Tell me how you came up with the word us and kids.
Because it's us, it's our marriage, and marriage was just too long. To be honest with you, because it's us and kids, it's not us or the kids,
Hmm. Got
it's
it.
and because it's a both. And when you do that, the tagline often in my mind is, we want you to be married forever because or while you parent together.
Nice.
Okay. And when you do that, life becomes fun. Now, I don't want to overwhelm your audience, but fun breaks down into this. Fun is fulfilling. Fun is unlimited in your conversations or in the experiences that you can have together because you're not frightened. You trust each other and you'll interact with each other. When one person pulls back, the other person will slow down. When one person jumps in, the other will trust and move forward. Okay. And it becomes naturally good. It's easy to do
Mm.
because we are in it together on the same road going the same place.
Okay, now this sounds theoretically fantastic.
Absolutely, right?
Right.
I get good language all the time, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And so this first half of this episode has been just kind of like it sounds a little bit out there because real life just doesn't happen that clean. I know
Mhm,
that you're right. I'm not questioning that. At the
mhm,
same time, that
mhm,
we haven't talked about the real nitty gritty that actually happens. And I know you know this, you had four kids.
mhm.
So when parents are judging themselves as a bad parent, they think their kids are maybe doing bad, what can you say in that situation? That's not fun.
Oh,
That's not
no.
feeling like the marriage is even mattering. In that moment, we want the kid to do, they're told to do. You want to move on to the next thing. The whatever got spilled and the, like
Yes.
things are
Mhm.
going on.
Yeah.
And maybe the spouse is working. So there is no
Absolutely.
partnership.
Nope. Nope.
So let's talk to some of that real life
Yeah.
versus this other place that is romanticized.
It is lovely romanticized, and I do hope that every marriage finds some of it in some phases. Life goes in seasons and in stages, and I agree
Right.
with you.
Yeah.
On the ground, every day, it makes it sound like our house was, all, I don't know, I'll say roses and something, but
Roses and
um,
sunshine.
yeah, but certainly not.
Right.
What do we do in the moment? Whenever we're under tension, we often like to hold our breath. And holding our breath freezes our brain. Our logic part of our brain is right above our eyes here. But when we hold our breath, that part of our brain starts to freeze. It doesn't have the right amount of oxygen to continue to help it think. Now, I'll blend that in with Dan Siegel with his Whole Brain Child book. Talks about that this is our brain, our hand here. It's not a fist. This is our brain. Brainstem is coming in up here. Okay. And when we are born, our emotions are tucked sort of right in the center of our brain here. Okay. But our logic, if I could cut my fingers off, I wouldn't, but that would be what I would like to do. Okay. These aren't growing yet.
Okay,
These
so for
grow.
the listeners that are not watching on video and they're only
Ah,
listening, I'm just going to
yes.
tell the listeners what you're doing. So Jan has her hand up in front of her, and then she is covering her thumb over the palm of her hand with her four fingers extended. And she's saying that the thumb is your brain stem and that the fingers, go ahead, take it from there.
Uh, so the thumb is in the brainstem, but it is our emotional center. We are born with an emotional center. We are not born with logic. That's these four fingers out here, knowledge and logic. And those develop in the first 4 to 6 years of life. This is why
Okay.
your 2-year-old doesn't make sense to you because your fingers, his little fingers here, are not grown. As they grow, they fold over your thumb And now, look at that. Now you have what could look like a fist, but really it is our logic and our knowledge being able to hug and calm down our emotions.
Ah, that's a nice way to say it.
Okay? It's because when our logic can talk to our emotions, we can talk ourselves down and we can talk ourselves through scary things. Okay, but when we're parenting and we're running 7 minutes late, when our kiddo can't find their shoes, when our kiddo who doesn't have language very well developed for whatever reason can't respond to you very well, it's probably because, whoop, there goes my logic that flies off. We call this flipping your lid. Your four fingers go whoop like this, fly off, and the only thing left that's attached to your brainstem is your emotions. Okay, so what's a parent to do? Take a deep breath. First of all, make sure that your brain has enough oxygen in and out. Okay, because CO2 is a poison and your brain is going to freeze if it has CO2 in it. You've got to blow it out.
Yep. So deep breaths. This is one of the reasons parents we say deep breaths is so that you oxygenate your brain, which means you think better. But sometimes we think that deep breaths are to calm ourselves. It does that too,
Mhm.
but there's also an oxygenation piece.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And in that oxygenation, now our logic can return and talk to our emotions. Our fingers come back down and wrap back into our emotions. So now we can recognize I am exhausted and I'm crabby, and maybe I'm a little bit hungry. What am I going to do? We have got to move. Okay, the kid can't be left at the bus stop. We're late for dance. So and so we're supposed to pick up. What do we? I've got
Hmm.
the list. This keeps our brain thinking because now we can calmly come to our kiddos and we can pick them up or help them and say, we'll do the shoes later. Okay, we'll get you in the car seat, and the rest of the stuff we're just going to put in the car. We don't care how it really looks right now. We're just getting it in the car because now we're going to get somewhere. And when we get in the car, we're going to go, look, we did it.
Not we did it in pieces, but we did it.
We did. Well, because you did.
Yeah.
Okay. So when we calm down, our kiddos will begin to be able to follow us. Okay. If they've really ramped up, their adrenaline is going to be running pretty high, and that's going to take 20 minutes or so for those four fingers of logic and calmness to come back down and re-hug our brain. But it'll happen. If you stay calm, they're going to follow you.
That is a good illustration. I love it. I know that you're using like a two-part brain with your
Yeah.
hand, and some people do a similar experience as a three-part brain. Obviously, our brain isn't in just those parts. It's integrated, but it is a very good way as a metaphor, as an analogy, whichever it might be, to show us. It's an example, a way to understand that is more physical to help us see it.
Yeah.
And it helps us relate it to real life. It's a very nice way to teach. Thank you.
It also helps us be gentle with our kids.
Mm-hmm.
When we can say, you aren't listening to me, and your kid's screaming, clearly they're not listening to you. They can't hear you. They are all emotion.
Mm-hmm.
But it's possible that then if you used that connection and then communication and then conflict resolution, if you really worked the connection piece, um, of the DNA way, you would then be touching, doing some eye contact,
Mm.
and just some proximity, whatever space your kids will let you at their level, that will often talk to them enough to say that you aren't the scary person, you are for them. And that is usually why they're distressed, is they feel like nobody is for them,
Sure.
that they don't belong, that they're too naughty and nobody wants them.
Mm-hmm. And
Very
this isn't to
quickly.
say that parents actually think this. This is that
Oh,
young mind that is interpreting through the lens that they have, that is underdeveloped and is just emotions in the moment, and they assign meaning through their 2 years of experience of life. And then it gets locked in. And they
yeah.
might hold that understanding for a period of
Yeah.
time. And then when they're 4 or 6 or whatever, you're still dealing with certain behaviors and you realize, oh, they're thinking something that I never intended to teach them. You know, like
Yes.
you didn't actually teach them, but they learned it still from you.
They absolutely they did. They
And
made a sentence in their head.
right, they put that experience through the filter of their limited knowledge, and that's the conclusion that they came to. And then when they get older, we need to rewrite it. And so this method that you're describing of connect and communicate, and then the conflict resolution, seems like it just is all of life. It goes
Yeah.
on. Then we eventually see what our children misunderstood. If we stay in connection and communication like that, then we can resolve some of those issues. Am
Yeah.
I reading it right for your
Well,
program?
absolutely. And that's one of the beauties of it is that I kept looking at marriage programs and parenting programs and saying, there is a family around who has the money or the time for both. And you end up with different languages.
Yeah.
What the marriage teaches is different than what the parenting. We make one program that will help you with your marriage and help you with your parenting. And it's one set of language.
Yeah, it makes sense because it's ultimately the same thing. You're working with people in both ways. And so you're connecting and you're
Mhm.
communicating.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that is the foundation, like you were saying. Even
Yeah.
before you do any of the conflict stuff, you're making that foundation of connection and communication.
Yes, yes. So if I can back up for just a minute, you had asked quite some time ago, maybe a few minutes ago, but anyways, um, about the, sort of the life in the cloud of how this all really works
Yeah,
and then the life on the ground.
yeah.
And what I want to say to young couples or to families and parents is get this right with yourselves. Work at it. Work at it for a year. Don't be afraid of doing something for a year. You're going to be married for 50. What's 1 year in working at it?
Mm,
Okay. But as you get your marriage smoothed out,
hmm.
your kiddos are going to settle down.
Love it.
They want to know if they are safe with you, and they want both of you because both of you creates their identity.
Hmm.
Okay. As
And
Gently
this,
said to the parents that are single parenting. Um,
mhm, it's true for
because
them too, that the kids identify
absolutely.
themselves with the parent that is no longer there.
Yes, absolutely, they do. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's important that we continue to speak kindly in front of our kids in all ways
Yep.
of the other spouse.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
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 All right. So now, one of the other things we talked about before was the idea of gratitude. I
Mm-hmm.
think there's an anchor with gratitude in your
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
program. Am I right?
Uh-huh. Yes, there is.
Go ahead
Yes.
and expand on that.
Well, let's just talk about at least my sort of working definition for gratitude. And gratitude has the space of seeing what is good and making sure that the catchwords I live into it, but making sure that you let that counterbalance what you're struggling with.
Mm,
Okay, because it's not an either or, it's a both and.
good.
Okay. From far away, I have a friend who is in prison in Cambodia for political activism.
Mm,
Okay. And when she and I are able to share some transmissions between each other 3 or 4 times a year, they'll let things go through to the prisoner. Um, but she has to balance her gratitude for the impact that she has had on the Cambodian world and her real life of prison is an awful place. And
yeah.
just to put those two together. Now that's extreme, but where I'm going to come back to that is we often feel I'm a prisoner in my own house. I'm a prisoner in my own marriage.
Mm,
And these are the good spaces. When we concentrate and give credit to the good spaces, our hearts can soften, our brains, that oxygenation place calms down. Okay. And we can become more confident, which helps us become more calm, which helps us be more connected so that we can communicate more gently, even when we're dead serious about something.
yeah. Well, that's good. And I'm so glad that your husband was on the same page in
Yeah.
deciding to do that Bahamas trip.
Yes.
Many times we have two parents and one is on that page of what you're talking about and the other is saying, I'm not on that page. I don't want to.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, and there's great sadness in that. I wouldn't ditch the marriage at that point. I would suggest or encourage that as your own personal self, that you begin to work to be your best self. and to begin to, what I want to say is compliment or affirm your spouse 10 to 15 to 20 times a day. Try it for 30 to 45 days and see what doesn't change.
Ah. So,
Mhm.
yeah, your work really is focused on a couple that wants to stay together. They want to work on it. They know that they need to get their marriage stable and they want to stay there.
Mhm.
And then you help them do that. And then the kids come along with the same skills, but they're the second hat, not the first
Yes,
hat. I
yes,
love
no,
that.
yeah,
It's a
yeah.
beautiful model.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
love how you have structured the relationship part of it
Mhm.
because you include the key features that I have found are super important for kids too.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and the startup for almost anything is messy. I mean, I watch kids get Legos for Christmas and they, start to empty out all the packets. And the beginning of it's messy. It doesn't look like anything.
Right.
And as they put the pieces together one little bit at a time, then all of a sudden, often for my grandkids, I couldn't do it in 2 hours, but all of a sudden they've got an airplane, they've got a new truck,
Mhm.
and it rolls and, flies and things. But it is just a little bit at a time
Mhm.
that makes such a difference. And when we can add compliment or care and compassion to our communication, um, that then our internal fear, the receiver, um, their fear goes down, and that makes their ability to connect go up. Okay.
Nice.
So when I'm frightened about something, and I don't know, Chip and I have been together now, I don't know, 46 or 49 years, so a long time. But when I say I'm scared about something, and he just hugs me for a minute and says, anything else you have to tell me, and I might say another sentence or two, but just that connection of that hug and his
Mhm.
tenderness is enough for my brain to settle down to say, no, I think I got it. I can figure it out now.
And that is a beautiful illustration of co-regulation.
Isn't it?
It
Right?
is. And
Yeah.
congratulations on so many years.
Yeah.
This has
Thank
been,
you.
you're welcome. This has been a beautiful interview. Thank you. Now, if you were to leave one message for the guests as we are about to sign off, what would be your one main message that you say, this is the thing I want you to take away? You hear a lot, but we can take away this much,
Yes, indeed, because you're going to remember a third of this conversation.
if that.
If you really want to know that. And the thing that I would like you to remember is that kind connection brings calm and conversation.
Kind connection brings calm and conversation.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Mhm.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. This has been a
And
pleasure.
oh, and where can people find you if they want to?
Oh, indeed. Well, you can find information and things on my website, and that's always a work in progress. So if something doesn't work, then you should just be emailing me and say, I want to know more. And that is just my name, Jan, at Us and Kids. I am
Very
a
good.
sole practitioner, and so nobody reads those emails but me. Um,
Fantastic. I will have that communication, contact information in the show notes. Thank you again for your time, Jan.
yes, thank you very much. Been absolute pleasure, and cheering for your families.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast. As an ask, I would like you to go to the show notes and click on Women Podcasters Awards and vote for the language of play. Thank you so much. Hey parents, I hope you found this episode helpful. If so, would you please take 30 seconds and share it with a friend who also lives or works with children? I would really appreciate it if you would leave a quick review for the show on Apple Podcasts. I read every review and it lights me up to know that this show is making a difference. Then come join my Facebook community, where you'll meet other parents who are dedicated to helping their children grow too. You'll find the link in the show notes. Thank you for joining me. Now it's time to go. Let's pop our kiddos in the strollers and go look around outdoors and see what we have to talk about.